Dr. Paige.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm great. Off to a good start.
Good, good. That's good to hear. I first want to welcome our viewers and just give them a brief explanation of what we're up to here at Houston A Plus with this Shoe and Chat segment. My name is Erica Milson, and I'm one of the instructional coaches here at Houston A Plus. And we've decided to connect our community members to our daily world within education. So we've now created these Shoe and Chat segments where we bring in different people who have impact, or it's still impacting student learning in this whole educational world. And so monthly, we hope to have these sessions where community members can sit in and listen to all the expertise and wealth of knowledge that different trailblazers have to offer us. And with that being said, our very first guest of our Shoe and Chat segment is Dr. Paige. Yay! And I'll just say a little about you. You are a Jackson State alum, where you also served as interim president. You coached football. You were the superintendent for Houston ISD. You were the dean of college education at Texas Southern University. You were the first African American and first superintendent to serve as Secretary of Education, where you helped create No Child Left Behind Act. And you've also held a very special role as president of Houston A Plus Challenge Board of Trustees. So you come with like a very extensive resume, and it just gives me goals. Like I aspire to be like you one day. So welcome, and thank you so much for giving us a couple of minutes of your time to talk about this new space that we're currently in. It's no secret that most districts are either back in school or they'll be returning next week sometime in this whole virtual space. So we just wanted to pick your brain, like what are your thoughts around this, and any ideas or considerations that we should take into place while shifting into this new virtual space. So I'm just going to jump right in and ask the first question, if that's okay with you.
Yes, okay.
Okay. So some of us are living through our very first pandemic, and it's no surprise that we're having some difficulties adjusting. Focusing on education, one adjustment educators are having to figure out is how learning should look virtually. What are your thoughts about your thoughts about things teachers and administrators need to consider while making decisions for our learners?
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me to participate in this beginning of what I'm sure is going to be an exciting learning experience for a lot of people. I'm pleased to be a member of the board there, and it gives me a chance to discuss education issues with some important and caring people who are very interested in improving education across the United States, but especially here in this area. Thank you for bringing me into this opportunity.
Thank you.
Let me start off with kind of what I think is the beginning point, for me at least.
Okay.
That is safety above all else. And I've been involved in schooling now all of my professional career. Mm-hmm. And I've kind of adopted the premise that I began with making sure that the environment is safe for the young kids that I'm dealing with. I made a kidding remark to some parents one time that said that parents may forgive you if your kid doesn't learn anything, but if one of them gets hurt, you got a big problem. So safety above all else. So we're going through a period now where that can become even louder. A period that we are going through for the first time. We don't know how things are going to happen. We're involved in learning it as we go, but there's a fundamental point here. That fundamental point is our actions should always keep in mind this basic premise: safety above all else.
Nice.
Now, it's how do we conduct safe schooling in an environment that we have now? This involves tons of learning. So the way I go about that is I try to ask myself, who are the most informed people in this issue? What are they saying? So consequently, reading and studying and listening to television and radio to people to find out what are the main issues. So that's the thing that I suggest for all A+ listeners and other people too, and that is we're going through a very new environment. So what we need to do is make sure that we learn as much as we can as we go, because we don't know. We've never experienced this before. This is a new world for us. So and there's a lot of debate out there right now, you know. So I'm not really clear exactly how my real feelings are, because I get a good argument over here and a good argument over here, and I've got to try to bring those things together and figure out which one is the best way to do that. The next thing that drives me a little bit is the idea that this is a new world. We can't go back and ask our forefathers and foremothers about this particular thing. There are many things they can teach us and we can learn from them about. But there are some new things going on in the world that's never happened before, and that means that we have to operate them by good, sound principles that we can figure out. But the thing that I think is central to this is, and the mistake that we can make is going back into the teaching environment, assuming that it's the same as it's always been. If that's a losing proposition right there. Okay, this is a new world, and it happened to us fast. Now here's a big challenge here. Change is constant. It's always going to be things change, but typically it changes gradually over time, and you have chance to moderate as you go, and you can study and look around and anticipate and think. But this kind of change we're going through now is not like that. It's explosive. All of a sudden, the whole world is different. So this means that we have to approach this differently. The basic thing that I think we could make sure that we get is we can't go back into the teaching world assuming that it was just like it was last time. It is not just like it was last time. And that gives us a good thing to change. Now, what is one of the drivers of this fascinating change? Things constantly change. But typically I would look around and say, what is the most vivid driver of this change? And of course there are a lot of different drivers, but the one that I think we're going through in education right now is technology. Technology is driving change rapidly. Now, what does this mean? This means if you're not up on the latest technology, you're behind, okay? And by the way, I'll confess, that's where I am. I've got to figure, I got to catch up and make sure that I'm up to speed on the current technology. And technology is speeding forward.
Yes.
And I recognize how far I'm behind. But if our school environments are using yesterday's technology, teaching today's kids, that's not going to work. And especially with the changes we're going through right now, one of the important things school districts have to do is get current with the technology. And that may be an issue that we at A+ can begin to give some thought to. How can we help schools get current on the current technology? Because if you're not current, and by the way, current is going to continue to go forward. So it's not like getting current and say, okay, I'm there. No, you're not there. You stay there. You've got to be there all the time. So I go back to when I was superintendent of Houston schools. Although I didn't recognize technology as explosive as it is now, I did understand technology was moving forward. And so I hired some special technology people to advise the school district, to advise me, to advise the board, because I recognized that we couldn't go forward if we were standing still. And I think that's one of the wisest things, wisest thing I did. Now, I guess I'm winding this part down by making this point. Now, and people wiser in education than I am can help me with this. I'm not claiming to have this completely nailed down.
Right.
What I'm sharing with you, what my thoughts are at this time.
Absolutely.
When I hear a better argument, I'll learn from it.
Right.
But where I am now is the belief that we've got to increase our partnership with parents and community people. Why is that? Because a lot of our learning in the new world is going to be at distance. This situation where we're sitting in front of a classroom of kids every day, it may not be this reality that we're going to be in. Sometimes the kids we're teaching are going to be miles away, and we can't see their environment. We're going to need somebody in that environment to be in partnership with us to make sure the environment is right. Now, ideally, that would be parents. We hope there are parents. But I know sometimes it's not quite like that. I remember when I was superintendent of schools in Houston, one of the things I learned right away was a lot of our kids are raised by grandparents who ideally have a different mindset. And that technology situation is sometimes somewhere behind where you are. So how do you close that gap?
Right.
You can't depend on them to help the kids, because many times you go into those environments and the kid is more advanced with technology than the parent is.
Right.
So there's a lot to catch up there. So I'm going to close it down now by simply saying that we got two problems here. One is getting online, getting involved with the technology, being there. The second one is being able to use that efficiently, be able to use that productively, being able to take advantage of the opportunities it presents. All that's new, and we need to keep our minds open to try to learn as we go forward. But the exciting thing about education now is it's a new world.
Right. Thank you for that. So I took some key points here. Like you talked about safety. You talked about this is new, so there's a lot of learning that needs to happen. And then we need to stay current with the technology so that, we're staying up to date with what's happening. Like this change is like happening every single night. I feel there's something new that's being, that's advancing technology that we're having to keep up with. So holding all of that and thinking about that, a lot of our non-educator friends, they find this transition for teachers and administrators to be somewhat seamless. I follow different parents and different non-educators on social media. So I see the posts where they feel like this should be very easy for us as educators to just figure out how to take our face-to-face instruction and make it virtual. And kids are learning from 8:15 to 3:30, from bell to bell online, and we just have it all figured out. Keeping in mind that educators, like we have accountability standards that we still have to maintain. So we have professional development hours that we still have to fulfill. We still have to differentiate our instruction for all learners. We still have to communicate with parents. We still have to assure that we have adequate resources to provide the best learning experience for our students. We still have to analyze data, and we still have to, build healthy teacher-student relationships. But we're doing all of these things and also making this big transition virtually. My word that I hold on to anytime I'm talking to a non-educator is grace. I just try to remind them to have grace with us educators as we try to figure this out. But what would you say to our friends who have that mindset where they think it's just so simple to just put everything online?
I think that's going to be one of the issues that we're going to find challenging right at the top, and that is, how do we communicate
Okay.
to not only the public, the leadership in the community, the parents, everybody, the impact of things are not the same now. This is a real explosive change. This is the kind of change we've never experienced before. We've all experienced change because time changes.
Right.
But time kind of creeps along with its change. It gives you an opportunity to learn as you go. This change is a different kind of change that's ever happened in the universe. It's like bang, all of a sudden it's different. And so what that means to us is we've got to go fast to catch up with the change. So we can't pigeonhole teachers and administrators based on our idea of what has happened in the past. They are experiencing this change as well. And so we need to help them grow and understand that they're doing something new to them and we're doing something new as well. So this is the thing that worries me most about the transition that we're undergoing right now, is how we will understand and experience the abrupt change in the dynamics of education that we've never had before.
Yeah.
We just have to have some real clear principles to guide us as we go forward. For example, like the principle, safety above all else. But what are the techniques and actions you got to take in order to make that happen? That's new in the current environment. But the old principle of safety above all else is what can guide us. Here's one thing that can guide us in our togetherness, and that is collaboration. I think the way the world is now, isolation is kind of sliding away. Everybody's connected to everybody else. And so we've got to be able to collaborate, to involve them in decision making, involve them in the thinking, find out how they figure it, learn from what they've done. It's isolation is kind of going backwards a little bit. There's very little isolation going on out there right now. What's going on right now is collaboration. Everybody's in on everything else. Everybody has the same information. So everybody's connected to everything else.
Yeah.
So this is a new experience that we all got to figure out how to do. This is a new exciting world we've got to learn to work together in.
Yeah. Nice.
So as far as the schooling is concerned, getting online and being in line with great teaching is what we got to do.
Nice. So you, as you know, here at Houston A Plus, we've spent years supporting teachers and administrators on their campuses, implementing best practices. That work was done sitting alongside a teacher and or an administrator while we help them take their learning and implement it to strengthen learning in the classroom. And so we are transitioning our work virtually. Just last week, I spent 3 days with a campus out in Galveston via Zoom, learning like how to engage students virtually. So we are making those transitions within our organization. Do you have any recommendations for us at Houston A Plus to consider to best help educators during this virtual transition?
Well, first place I've learned a lot from A Plus, and I'm not sure that I get in a position to advise on anything like that. I just can say that A Plus has been and it still is a fantastic organization in helping school districts and teachers individually become more productive and efficient with their craft. And so, given that as a practice that A Plus is undertaking, A Plus needs probably can become a leader in how do we make the adjustment to the new technology world. What are the new technology issues that teachers need to? I tell you, one of the problems we're going to have out there right now is teachers are going to have to catch up with technology.
Yes.
I remember when I was superintendent of schools in Houston, and I first went out to visit schools. I would go into a classroom and I'd see sitting on a teacher's desk a great big old box as a computer. That computer's been sitting there for months. It hasn't been turned on. You can tell nothing has been used. Sometimes they have books stacked on top of it and stuff like that. So they had computers, but the people didn't know anything about the computers, so the computers were useless. So we don't want to go through that mistake again. The issue is, how do we conduct learning experiences so that the teachers who are actually doing the teaching work are up to date on the latest technology, since technology is a major driver right now. You cannot be an effective teacher unless you're also up to date with technology. And I can promise you that there are many teachers out there, and good teachers, who've done marvelous work in the past and are still doing marvelous work, but have not kept up with the technology. I'm going to put myself in that category too. I'm behind too. I got to catch up. But maybe where I'm going with this is, maybe this is a thought that the A+ can give some thinking to. Is there a way we can help schools come up to date with the latest technology? And not only come up to date, it's not like you come up to date and you're there, but how do you continue to be there? Because technology is not going to slow down, it's going to continue to move. That's one of the things I think that we should give some thought to. I don't have any ideas on how we go about it, but I tell you what, we're going to be completely out of date if we are not, as an organization, also very current and very knowledgeable of what is available to the teaching world of technology. How is technology interfacing with education?
Right. Nice. Thank you for that. I have to go and play around with some apps when we log off. So my final question, early I shared there are many different roles that you have had within education. And like, this work is hard, and there are times where we find ourselves where it's like easier to conform rather than push and continue to fight for what's right for our kiddos. And even like right now in this whole virtual space, like, we work from 8 to 5, but we still have to go home and, tend to our families, as well as do independent learning on our own in this whole virtual space. It's hard. Like, being a teacher is really hard and really challenging. Your entire educational journey is extremely impressive. And looking back at your accomplishments and your commitments and dedications for students is unmeasured. I can't help but to wonder, what kept you motivated to push forward? Like, what advice do you have for us, especially right now in having to figure out this new world? How do we continue to stay motivated and keep pushing forward to do what's right for our kids?
Well, one of the things that I enjoy doing during spare time is reading, and my favorite subject of reading is history, especially African American history.
Okay.
And I'm fascinated by the high quality of leadership that we've had in our history since we came in 1619. And the explosive change, growth that we've had as a group has been driven by the high quality leaders that we've been blessed with. So the issue right now is, can we continue that? We find really outstanding leaders to help us through this particular but this particular change in circumstances, like leaders before us have helped us through the changes that they faced. So that's one of the exciting things that has kind of driven me, is to read about with fantastic men and women that have met challenges in their day and figured out ways to help us through those challenges. Where is that leadership today? You know, by the way, I should make this clear though, there are many outstanding, powerful, futuristic leaders that we have out today who we're very proud of because they're doing a lot of great work. But one of the things I think that we've got to help drive now is motivation for learning. Motivation for learning, because we as an ethnic community are changing positions with another ethnic community, where we at one time was the second largest ethnic community in the United States of America. Now we're number 3. And that transition means that there's going to be some differences in societal practices and how things operate, which means that education is going to be a more powerful driver of moving forward than it has been in the past. It's always been a great driver, but a lot of decisions are going to be made not based on the high quality of education that you have. You know, so I think that means that as a group, education is a more powerful driver now than it has before. Although it's been a powerful driver before, it's even more important to us now, and we've got to try to get that right.
Yes. Well, thank you all so much, Dr. Paige. I have typed up so many notes, so I'm going to go back and just take it all in and, you know, try to stay motivated and move forward and meet with our team and come up with many more ideas so that we can be leaders in the greater Houston area, especially around this whole space of virtual learning. Thank you again for being our very first host of our now Chew and Chat segment. And we hope that you'll come back and visit us again and talk to us more about other topics that tend to, you know, that are really important in the educational world. Any last remarks that you would like to make before we?
Yes, I'd like to go away with this. That is to congratulations and thank A+ Challenge, because A+ Challenge has been wonderful in helping move education forward. The schools that needed help and answers to questions that they needed answers to, A+ has been there with quality leadership and quality opportunities to help people. This is a new world circumstance in education, and I expect that the A+ Challenge will take its rightful role in helping schools to transition between this face-to-face situation that we still got to get perfect, to the virtual space that we've got to get perfect. So A+ Challenge has to keep its standard word going.
Yeah, thank you for that. So next month we will have Kate Walsh joining us to talk about teacher quality and student equity. Please join us, and again, thank you so much, and we will see you all next month for our next Chew and Chat segment.
Thank you.
Thank you.